Hi, everyone. We hope you're doing well. We have finished the book of Esther. We pretty much, I think, talked about everything we could about Esther. And so we're going to a different book. So today we're going to look at the book of Ruth. It is another story about a girl that God chooses to use in different situations. And once again, it's one of those books where God doesn't necessarily show up in person or do some crazy kind of miracle in, but instead you kind of see God working in different ways throughout the whole book. And so we're going to do the book of Ruth. The first question we want you to answer today, if you're listening, is this. What is one thing that you are loyal to? One thing that no matter what happens, you're always going to choose it, or support it, or whatever it is. So my answer would be the Pittsburgh Pirates. I grew up being a Pittsburgh fan. My dad liked the Steelers, and so they have a baseball team. And so when I was like 17 years old, 18 years old, I fell in love with the Pirates. And they are just somebody or a team that I will always support, even when they're not good. And they are not good more than they are good. So I am a loyal fan of the Pirates. It doesn't matter how good or bad the season is going, I still want to watch them and support them. And so I would say I'm loyal to the Pirates. Morgan, you got anything?
I could say the Pirates in the last few years of being with you. But so that I don't have the same answer, I will say Meadowbrook Volleyball. As a coach, it's been the first program that I've been a part of that I really just can rally behind the vision and the mission and the goal that we have. And I kind of mentioned it last week with the coaching philosophy that Kelly has and the ways that I look up to her for that. And there have been opportunities or moments where I could have chosen to do something else or go somewhere else or try to be a coach somewhere else or whatever. But ultimately, I don't want to miss anything with Meadowbrook Volleyball. So even with having a newborn baby, my goal this summer is to still be as involved as I can be, just like I was with Jameson. And so I am definitely loyal to that.
Cool. And you can be loyal to anything. You may be loyal to just chocolate ice cream. And you're only going to ever want to eat ice cream that's chocolate. Or different brands and things like that. We're loyal to a lot more things than I think we realize, in a sense. And so today we're going to talk about somebody that stays loyal to someone even when she doesn't need to, really, but she still chooses to. So the book of Ruth is an interesting book. It's only 4 chapters, and I'm not exactly sure how we're going to break it up. But today we're going to do Ruth chapter 1. And so if you're going to follow along, go ahead and read Ruth 1. And then we're going to just kind of talk you through it a little bit today. There is an important part that we're going to look at today. But in Ruth, you have a family. There is a dad, there's a mom, and then there's 2 sons. The mother's name is Naomi. Morgan will tell you the father's name. Elimelech. We're going to call him E.
Eli?
We're going to say E. And then they have 2 sons. One of them's Malin, and the other one is? Kilion. And so there's a family of 4. And they live in a town. They live in Bethlehem. And that's part of God's kind of land.
They're Israelites. They're Ephraimites.
Yes.
They're from Ephraim.
They're God's people. And basically God has told them He will take care of them as long as they're obedient. But however, they apparently haven't been because there is a large famine that strikes the land, and there's no food or no...
That's not just that family that hasn't been good. It's the whole Israelites.
Right.
Have not been...
God's people haven't been faithful.
Yes, God's people have not been faithful.
So there's a famine, and we're assuming that's why there's a famine, yes. I guess.
Well, it is.
But as we read through Ruth chapter 1, the family Father E decides that they got to move. And so they'd go to the land of Moab. And they're basically looking to go somewhere where they can get some food. And so they moved to the land of Moab. It wouldn't have been an easy travel. It would have been quite a journey. And once they get there, something tragic happens. Morgan, you want to tell them what happens?
Papa E dies.
Yeah. Papa E dies just out of nowhere. They just kind of get there. They've moved their whole life. And you have to imagine he was the guy kind of pushing them to get to the new land. And when they get there, he dies. And so it would have been tragic for the whole family, because not only did you just lose your father or you just lose your husband, but you've lost them, and now you're in a new town that you know nobody. And so I want you to think about that. That would have been really hard for them to be kind of in that situation. Also, they're in a situation where they haven't been able to get food. And so all of these things are kind of building up, and then it's like this giant thing falls on them. But it doesn't stop there. The two sons get married. They get married to one lady named Orpah. I just like to call her Oprah. And then there's another lady named Ruth, and that's where we get the book Ruth about. And so obviously, if you want to jump forward, that's who we're going to talk about a lot. But the two boys get married to these two women, and they are Moabites. And so they're not from the same land that they grew up in. So Moabites would have had different beliefs. They may worship different gods and would have been raised a little bit different than these two boys. But the two boys found these two ladies, they married them, and it should be happily ever after. But what we find out is after 10 years after their father dies, these two boys die. And we're not really sure how they die. I'm not sure if it happened at the same time or what the case was. But now Naomi, I'm the one with the Bible. Naomi is now a widow, but she also has lost her two sons. And now these two ladies, Orpah and Ruth, have now become widows as well. Mm-hmm. And so there's this moment in Ruth chapter 1 where you're not quite sure where this book is leading. Like, it's just been chaos so far. And so Ruth decides that she's going to go back home. That she's going to go back to Bethlehem.
Naomi decides she's going home.
Naomi. Whew. Naomi decides she's going to go back home. Going back home to where they used to live, and hopefully life will get normal. She's kind of playing it in her head that maybe God wants her to go back home. These things have all been happening. And so she has this moments with her daughter-in-laws where she basically says, I'm going, and they start the journey, and the daughter-in-laws are with her. And then finally she starts thinking about this, and she's like, I can't make them go with me. There's really no reason for them to go with me. My sons have died. They should just go home with their families. And she tells that to the two ladies, to Orpah and Ruth. She says, go home to your own families. Like, there's no need to follow me. And they both start weeping and crying and say, no, we're going with you. They don't want to leave. And then verse 15. No, not 15. No. Where are we going?
You're in verse 11, where he says we're...
Yes. So she asks him again, she asked him again. She turns around and she says, guys, listen, you need to go back to your families. There's no need for you to go with me. Like, life has been crazy. I'm sorry, but I don't have any more sons for you to marry. There's no way that I'm going to have a kid. Even if I had a kid, would you really wait all those years to marry him? Like, no, you're not. Just go home. And so Orpah listens. She gives Naomi a kiss and goes on her way. She goes back home. But Ruth does something else. And we're going to read verse 15 through 18. I'm going to have Morgan read that for you.
Verse 15 says, Look, said Naomi, your sister-in-law is going back to her people and her gods. Go back with her. But Ruth replied, Don't urge me to leave you or to turn back from you. Where you go, I will go, and where you stay, I will stay. Your people will be my people, and your God will be my God. Where you die, I will die, and there I will be buried. May the Lord deal with me, be it ever so severely, if even death separates you and me. When Naomi realized that Ruth was determined to go with her, she stopped urging her.
Yeah, and so basically from there, they're going to go to Bethlehem, and people are going to be excited that Naomi's there, and she's going to explain to them, like, this is what life has been. But the key point we want to focus on today, to get things started, is that moment there in verse 15 through 18, where Ruth says, I'm not leaving you. She specifically says, where you go, I'll go. Where you live, I'll live. And then she even says this. She says, the God you serve, I will serve. And that's the most important part, I think, of chapter 1, is because if you go back and think about it, she was a Moabite, so she wouldn't have had the same beliefs as Naomi and her sons. But what is neat is even through all of these trials, even through all of these difficulties, something has drawn her to see the faith that Naomi has. And so she's even willing to say, like, not only will I just go with you, but I want to be all in. I see the faith that you have in the God that you serve, and I want to serve him as well. And so I think that's an important part of the story. And it's going to become a huge thing in the story as we keep going throughout the story of Ruth. But guys, it's that moment, like, one, props to Naomi because somehow she's kept faith through all of this, to the point that other people are noticing, like, she's still faithful to God, even though she's lost her husband and her 2 sons. She still has faith. So there's that, and then there's also, like, Ruth, who's, like, willing to, like, look at people and say, okay, I want what they have. And so I think for us, something we can take away from this is, number one, people are watching. People like to, I guess, analyze how you respond to things and things like that. And I've told you guys before, there are some people that's never going to step foot into a church. But you can be the gospel for them for how you live your life. Like, the way that you respond to things, the way that you just carry yourself can be a glimpse of the gospel. And so we hope that that can be an encouragement for you. And so our second question was this.
Someone other than your parents who has made an impact on your faith.
Yeah, we want you. Yeah, that's a good. That's the right question. Yeah. So, who's made an impact on your faith other than mom and dad? Morgan, do you have an answer? I can give mine if you want to think for a second. Okay. Mine would be, I got some fellas I went to college with. Most of you know them, Andy and Keaton and Jake and the whole crew. My friends from college, they were all Bible majors and they all do ministry stuff now. But when I met them, I was real quiet. Like, nobody would have even known I was working at a church as a part-time youth minister, because I was just the quiet kid that just kind of bebop through the moment. But those guys have kind of challenged me when we were in school to, like, step out a little bit, and, like, they hosted, like, these big different ministry things on campus, and I got to be a part of them. But they kind of helped me get out of my shell. Like, I had a faith, maybe, in a sense. Like, I had a faith, but I wasn't willing to, like, actually take a step into faith. And those guys kind of took me and said, okay, let's go. And so I give them a lot of credit for me being partially who I am now. So.
I'm gonna take my easy answer and say this guy. I was at a very weird, different place, and some of you guys know that, when I met him, and so I kind of got to the point where I was like, I'm not living a good enough life to be with someone who works in a church and works with kids. So for me, it was this, I need to kind of start figuring out who God made me to be, because I'm not being that girl. And the reason I did that was because I wanted to be able to be the girl and the wife I guess the girlfriend at that time, that he deserved to have. So that was a huge impact for me. It was just making me rethink, like, where do I want my future to go, and who do I want to spend my future with, and what kind of life do I want to live. So that kind of, most of you guys know my story and our story and how that all worked out. So, but yeah, so I would say that's probably one of the biggest impacts.
Good. All right, so we're
good. I'm glad I made an impact.
We're excited to hear who it is for you guys, and we hope that as we look through the story of Ruth, that you can be encouraged by the faith of Naomi and the things that Ruth's going to accomplish through God. And so we look forward to looking at the book of Ruth with you. Still no baby yet. Maybe next time we do a video, Drew will join us, but maybe not. We hope you guys have a good week, and we look forward to seeing you all soon. So see you guys.
Bye, guys.